This is the story of Christa Pike, a name that still sends chills through the halls of American justice. Once a troubled teenager from Knoxville, Tennessee, Christa's life spiraled from pain and neglect into something far darker. In a shocking turn of events, she became the youngest woman ever sentenced to death in the United States, just 20 years old, when she walked into history for all the wrong reasons. Her crime was brutal, her motive chilling, and her name unforgettable. A broken beginning. Christa Pike's story begins long before the murder that made her infamous. Born on March 10, 1976 in Tampa, Florida, she grew up surrounded by instability. Her parents' relationship was violent and toxic, and her mother struggled with drug addiction. As a child, Christa was often left alone, ignored, neglected, and searching for love in all the wrong places. Teachers described her as bright but deeply troubled. She dropped out of high school, drifting from place to place, trying to find a sense of belonging that never came. When she was just 18, she enrolled in a Job Corps program in Knoxville, Tennessee, a government training center designed to give young people a second chance. But instead of finding hope, Christa found obsession and destruction, love, jealousy, and darkness. It was there, at Job Corps, that Christa met Daryl Shipp, a fellow trainee who shared her fascination with dark, gothic themes. The two quickly became inseparable. They dressed in black, studied occult symbols, and whispered about demons, death, and power. For Christa, Daryl was everything: her partner, her protector, and her obsession. But that obsession soon turned toxic. When another young woman named Colleen Slemmer joined the program, Christa's fragile world began to unravel. Colleen was friendly, outgoing, and seemed to get along with Daryl. To most people, it was innocent. But to Christa, it was betrayal. Jealousy consumed her. She became convinced that Colleen was trying to steal her boyfriend, and in her mind, there was only one way to make the jealousy stop. The night of January 12, 1995. It was a cold Thursday night in Knoxville. Christa told Colleen she wanted to make peace, to talk, clear the air, and finally move on. Colleen agreed. She had no idea that it was a trap. Christa, Daryl Shipp, and another friend, Shadola Peterson, lured Colleen into a wooded area on the grounds of the University of Tennessee Agricultural Campus. For more than 30 minutes, the night echoed with Colleen's screams. Christa taunted her, beat her, and cut her, carving a pentagram into her chest. When it was over, Colleen Slemmer lay dead, her life brutally taken by someone barely out of childhood herself. The horrifying aftermath. The next day, investigators discovered Colleen's body. The scene was gruesome and the evidence was overwhelming. Within hours, Christa Pike began bragging to friends about what she had done. She even kept a piece of Colleen's skull as a trophy, carrying it with her in her jacket pocket. When police arrested her, Christa showed little remorse, even smirking during her interrogation. Detectives were stunned. They weren't dealing with a hardened adult criminal. They were looking at a 19-year-old girl who seemed to take pride in one of the most disturbing murders Tennessee had ever seen. The trial and the verdict. Christa Pike was charged with first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder. Her trial began in March 1996. Over the following weeks, jurors listened to a horrifying account of what had happened that night. The prosecution described the killing as a ritualistic execution, motivated by jealousy and obsession. Even her defense attorney struggled to explain her actions, citing mental health issues and a history of childhood trauma. But in the end, the jury was unmoved. On March 30, 1996, Christa Pike was found guilty on all counts. When the judge asked if she had anything to say before sentencing, she simply shrugged. The sentence? Death. At just 20 years old, Christa became the youngest woman on death row in the modern history of the United States. Life behind bars. Christa was sent to the Tennessee Prison for Women in Nashville. At first, she adjusted quietly, reading books, attending chapel, writing letters. But the peace didn't last. In 2001, she was caught attacking another inmate, attempting to strangle her with a shoelace. Prison guards intervened just in time. The incident showed that her violent tendencies hadn't faded. If anything, they had intensified. The long years of appeals. For nearly 3 decades, lawyers fought to save Christa Pike's life. They argued that she had been mentally unstable, abused, and abandoned, that she was more a victim of her upbringing than a monster by choice. But every appeal failed, every motion denied. The courts maintained that the crime had been deliberate, cruel, and beyond redemption. And so, year after year, Christa Pike remained in her small cell, the last woman on Tennessee's death row. In 2023, after years of legal battles, the Tennessee Supreme Court reaffirmed her death sentence. Then, in a chilling development, an execution date was finally set, September 30th, 2026. If carried out, Christa Pike will be the first woman executed in Tennessee since 1949. Even now, her lawyers continue to file motions, but time is running out. Evil or victim? The question that haunts people to this day is simple. Was Christa Pike born evil, or did a life of pain create her? Psychologists who studied her say she showed early signs of mental illness, borderline personality disorder, and deep emotional trauma. Others believe that her actions went beyond explanation, that she was fully aware of what she was doing and chose cruelty. Regardless of the debate, one truth remains. The life of Colleen Slimmer ended in unimaginable horror, and the life of Christa Pike, even before the death sentence, was already destroyed. The legacy of fear. Nearly 30 years later, the case of Christa Pike continues to fascinate and disturb. It's been the subject of documentaries, crime podcasts, and college lectures, a grim reminder of how jealousy, violence, and neglect can collide in one deadly moment. Her story isn't just about murder. It's about a system that failed two young women, one who lost her life, and another who threw hers away. This was the story of Christa Gale Pike, the youngest woman on death row in the United States. Her journey from broken child to convicted killer stands as one of the most chilling stories in American crime history. As her execution date of September 30th, 2026 approaches, the world once again turns its eyes to Tennessee, waiting to see how the final chapter of Christa Pike's dark story will end. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe for more real-life true crime stories from around the world. Real crimes, real victims, real stories.